Hey, and welcome back to Talk About Worlds. I'm SirFelixTheCat, and this is The Blender. So, I've been playing a lot of Avowed recently. I'm just about 25 hours into it, and this game is great. Like, one, I would say in order to find it great, you should already be a fan of the Pillars of Eternity series that's going on. This is the third game in the series, technically. So, it kind of does help to already be established in it. So if you haven't played like Pillars 1 or Deadfire, definitely go check it out and then jump into Avowed. That's probably my suggestion for the best way to experience this game. You'll be more familiar with the lore. You won't have those gripes about, oh, this is bad writing because I don't know what's going on, because you didn't pay attention to the first two. And if you're just speedrunning like the main story, you're doing yourself a disservice on all these games. Like, take the time, explore, get to know people. It's a really rich and fulfilling series. Like, it's deep. It's got a lot going on. It's some of the craziest, most insane lore I've seen in the game. But yeah, that kind of inspired me to want to go over Obsidian's past work and just do a tier list out of it. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. Let's get into this. All right, so here we go. We have a tier list of all of the Oblivion games, or sorry, Oblivion. I keep wanting to call it Oblivion because I'm thinking about Elder Scrolls for some reason. I still want to know if that remake's ever going to come out, but here we have all the Obsidian games. And this was pretty much preset. I just added Avowed and added a tier because there are some that I've just never played. There's one that I've never even heard of. But yeah, so let's do this. Let's just go in order that's in. So I'm going to start with Icewind Dale. So Icewind Dale is probably the first game I actually ever played by Obsidian. It's a beautiful top-down Dungeon and Dragon story. It's also got a great book that goes along with it. It follows a little bit of a different journey, but you see some of those characters in this game, and that's beautiful. But yeah, Icewind Dale, for its impact on me, and that's how this tier list is going to go. It's not like what's most influential, because I mean, this still would probably go in the same spot, but just what impact they had on me growing up. And by far, Icewind Dale is one of those games I can for sure say is one of the best games ever. I've played through it multiple times. I sometimes just sit there, go into the wild and spam rest, so I get into random battles just to level up because I like to cheese it sometimes. But yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful game. It was re-released and repackaged for, I'm pretty sure, all modern consoles. I have it on Switch. But yeah, definitely, if you haven't played it, go check it out. It is very much worth it. Next, we have Dark Alliance 2. Dark Alliance 1 was a great game. 2 was an improvement in a lot of ways. However, I can't give it that high of a score. It's going to be a B. If I was to rank all Diablo games, they would all pretty much get a B, except for maybe 3. 3 might be a C. It's a good game, but not terrible. But anyways, yeah, it falls along those lines. It's a good little hack and slash game. It's got good writing. I'll give it that. It's got a good story. It takes place in a wonderful setting. I mean, it's basically the same setting as Icewind Dale, the whole Baldur's Gate, Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. Good game. I mean, just not my favorite. Next up, we have Alpha Protocol. This is a game that that was published under Sega, and one that just flopped. Flopped horrendously, but it's such a good game. The combat in it is fantastic. A lot of people didn't like it at first, but I don't know what they were really expecting from it. There's multiple ways you can go through it. You can do multiple different types of fighting. I like to do martial arts because your dude is a savage fighter. It's got decent stealth. It's got a crazy story. If you've ever seen Burn Notice, it's pretty much like that. It's Burn Notice the game with a little bit more tech going on. That one I'm going to give it A. I wish they would come back out, maybe do like a remaster, polish it up some. There was a little buggy at times. Just polish it up, and that would probably be an S tier game. It is great. All right, fourth up, we have Dungeon Siege 3. I'm going to be straight honest, this is the only Dungeon Siege I've ever played. Don't know if the rest are good. I did not hear about it until I got this one. Again, it falls kind of short for me. it's going to have to go in C. I don't know if people like this one. I've never looked into reviews for it. If you are a fan of this, good for you. I enjoyed I didn't beat it. I put maybe 20, 25 hours into it, and I just stopped. It's whatever. Next up, we have Fallout Tactics, I think. Or is this 2? No, this is Fallout 2. I only played about 20, 30 minutes of it. It is better than Fallout 1, and Fallout 1 is a fantastic game. I'm going to go ahead and put this one up on A. It started to lean more into the comical side of Fallout that we know today. And that's something that kind of makes Fallout, I don't know, stand out a little bit more than some other games, at least of its time. I've always had this debate, and I've talked about it before, Wasteland series versus Fallout. Wasteland being the original, Fallout being the, follow-up to it, kind of like spiritual successor of it. And I'm going to have to say that Wasteland will always be better than Fallout. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but that's how I feel about it. But that one started to lean more into the comical side that, to me, makes Wasteland so unique. And I wanted to see more of that. And I really think that Obsidian might be the masters of that kind of game. Like, of the Fallout, Wastelands type of genre. No offense to In Exile. They do a great job. Wasteland is a great series. But, I don't know. Like, we're going to get to New Vegas in a minute, but Obsidian seems to just truly understand what they're going for there. Yeah, so it's going to get an A. Wasteland 1 is going to get a B. Very influential game. Completely understand that. I've raved about how great it is. I still won't put it on like a top tier list. It's just, it doesn't really belong A or S to me. Personal opinion. New Vegas is great. Most people are going to want to put this at an S. It's probably the best Fallout game. But, I don't know. You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to please everybody. It's going to be an S. I want to personally put it as an A, but I did spend a lot of time with this one. I've played through it 5 or 6 times. I fell in love with the fact that you could literally just talk your way out of almost every fight, especially out of the end. You don't have to kill anybody. Just talk your way out of it. And boss fight done. Thought that was great. And I love all the characters. They, like I said, they truly understand the Fallout series. That whole, like, Wasteland, post-apocalypse nonsense. Grounded, I've seen a lot about it, but I've never played it. Apparently it was doing well for them. I don't know if it still is. It's a game. Online, co-op, PvP, whatever it is. Just not my cup of tea. Icewind Dale 2, definitely going to go back up there with 1. Those are, again, fantastic games. If you haven't played these, go check them out. You're wasting time. Just stop watching this video. Go check them out, then come back, watch this video, tell me what you think. Knights of the Old Republic 2. I have it, but I actually never played too much of it. I started it up. I got maybe 20, 30 minutes into it. It is interesting. I do like the first one. First one had a lot of issues that kind of turned me off. But from everything I've seen and videos I've watched on this game, it is fantastic. I sadly have to put it in never played because I don't think 15 minutes is playing a game. I mean, a lot of people, big reviewers, put out the reviews like, oh yeah, I played a game for 15 minutes. Here's the final score on it. And that's nonsense. You can't do that. It's just like if you're going to review a game, and I'm going to get into this one later. If you review a game, you should play the game, not just like play it for a few minutes or just like bum rush the main quest. If there's side quests to it, do side quests. That way you can be accurate in your information. It really bugs me when people don't truly play a game and say, oh yeah, I'm set to review this one. No, that's why I'm not reviewing these two. I played this one for maybe 20 hours, or 25, and I just couldn't get into it. So I'm going to say for me, it's a C. I mean, that makes sense for Dungeon Siege. I'm admitting I did not fully beat it. All right, Neverwinter Nights, or Neverwinter Nights 2. This series is also fantastic. I'm a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, like everything about it, especially all the video games. They are great. Even the ones that are kind of trash, they're still great. I mean, like Dungeon Siege, it's not Dungeons and Dragons, but it has that same kind of vibe at times, and I like it. It's not my cup of tea. I'm gonna say it's a decent game. C does not mean it's bad. Dark Alliance 2, it's a B. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just it wasn't my favorite of the series. But yeah, so anytime you see me review any or rank any Dungeons and Dragons related game, it's top tier. Just not going to be worthy of S, which is like some of the greatest games of all time. And then the Outer Worlds. This one, it has some mixed views on it, and that is just beyond shocking to me. I love this one. I'm very cynical at times. I'm very anti-establishment, anti-oligarchy, which is what U.S. government is going through right now. Oligarchy, where companies basically control the people. We're kind of on a hard line to be in the Outer Worlds, and I find it hilarious. We're doomed, and that's the setting of the Outer Worlds. You are doomed. The companies own everything. They basically have their own militaries. It's very sad and depressing, but hilarious to me at the same time, just because, cynicalist. But yeah, gameplay is fantastic. There are some shortcomings to it. I'm going to put it as a B, and again, I love this game. Like, huge fan of it. I love it, but it does have its shortcomings, and I hope that Outer Worlds 2 fixes all that. I mean, there were certain characters in it that a lot of people don't vibe with. If you spend enough time working on them, working with them, you kind of grow an attachment to them. But I will admit, there are some that are kind of a put off. There's, I can't remember the guy's name because I stopped using him after my first playthrough. I used him in the first one because I did like the fact that he was like the sports fan. I thought that was kind of interesting there. But he's a waste of space, and I can't stand him, so I'll never use him again. But yeah, if they change people like that, don't make allies that you just can't stand. I don't get why you do that. Like, I understand, like in the Fallout series, Fallout 3 would probably be the best example. I don't relate to Jericho, but I like Jericho for who he is. Like, he's just a badass, and he doesn't care. He knows that if it comes down to it, he's just going to take you out. I appreciate that. He doesn't come off as like just a piece of trash, and I like that aspect of it. Don't make people terrible for no reason. Torment. This one is, if you've never played Torment, you have to go into it understanding this is not your typical Dungeons and Dragons game where you're going to go out there, try to kill everything and be the best and just gain like the best loot. This one requires a lot of thinking, and I'm pretty sure that's turned a lot of people off. It did turn me off when I was younger. I actually went back to it after I beat the follow-up, Tides of Numenera, and I learned a whole new respect for it. Is the game hard? Yeah, it's very hard. It takes a lot of thought. You have to really think kind of outside the box to get through it. And it's kind of a walk and talk sim with some combat. It's going to be a B. I mean, nothing wrong with it. It is a fantastic game, very inspirational. It was just, I don't know, it was probably out before its time. If they could have made it today with all that same depth and thought to it, I think it would be a much better game. But inspirationally, it is a very inspiring game. It kind of, to me personally, I think it is a big inspiration for Disco Elysium, because that's another game that is very hard and it takes a lot of thought because you have to think about things differently than you do in a normal game, especially of that genre. All right, Pillars of Eternity. Yeah, I'm putting them both up there. So this has become one of my favorite series of all time. Like, it is fantastic. Pillars 1, it's got a great story. It took me a while to get into it. I actually started playing it. I got maybe 15 hours in and then stopped. Went back to it like 6 months later, deleted my save, started over, and then flew through it, doing all the side quests I could, just shy of 100%ing it. I know there was some... I didn't do the... I didn't complete the dungeon underneath your castle. which I think that's the only thing I missed in it. And I totally didn't even think about it until after I beat the game. I was like, oh, whoops. But it is a fantastic game. Deadfire, the second one, it turned a lot of people off. And before I move on to those, these were both crowdfunded games. Like, the fact that they got made was just amazing. And I'm glad they did. And I'm glad that I actually bought these games. I hope that more people go out and buy these games. Like, don't just play them on a service where you get to, like, basically rent it for free with your monthly subscription. Go out and buy these games if you're into this style of RPG. Like these top-down Dungeons and Dragons feeling games. These ones are totally worth it. Some of the best I've played. The stories are great. The lore is insane. The lore alone is enough to probably get me to just continue to play the games. They're wonderful. It's deep. It's crazy. It deals with a bunch of different gods, and it's not like your normal gods. They're very unique. They share some resemblances to like Norse gods, but they have their own charm. And the fact that you actually get to talk to them and see how unique they truly are, especially with your characters too. Your characters can follow a god. Like you can be a godlike, and that means you're actually touched by a god. You partially embody them. And I think aspects like that are pretty interesting. I'm not the biggest on religion, but the way they do religion in this game is so beautiful. So beautiful. It's what I feel like they want to do with Elder Scrolls, but just never succeeded in. Because, like, yeah, they have their gods in Elder Scrolls, but I don't know. You find their statue, do a mission for them. You may pray to one of their, like, relics and remove curses. But besides that, their gods are pretty weak. Meanwhile, Pillars comes in, technically being like a indie game because it's crowdfunded and all that, and it's a just masterpiece. Just absolute masterpiece, both these games. 2, a lot of people aren't going to agree with me that it belongs in S. I believe like the whole piratey theme turned people off because it was a little bit different than the first Pillars of Eternity. I don't see where they're coming from. The writing is fantastic. The characters are great. If you transported your file over, I mean, you could keep the same crew you had. It's great. I think there's a couple people that are missing, but for the most part, you keep everything the same. It's great. Go pick these games up. Absolutely. I hope Deadfire gets ported to the Switch 2. It's not on Switch 1. Stick of Truth. This game is hilarious. This game is fantastic. There's some disturbing situations in it, but the game is great. They did a fantastic job with this one. It's South Park, so it's got that crude humor, but gameplay and everything about it, they did a great job. And I wish more people would see how great it is. I think it did review great, but I don't feel like it got enough people to buy it, probably because they're turned off by South Park. It's been around for, I mean, God, most of my whole life. South Park is crazy old. That's insane. Making me think about how old I am. Tyranny. Tyranny is one I never actually played. I've heard of it, never played it. Arcanum, this is a very inspirational game. I don't even know if it's on any consoles you can buy now. I mean, you're probably going to have to go on to, like, GOG in order to get this one. But another very big inspirational game. Falls into the whole, like, Dungeons and Dragons vibe and everything. Definitely go pick it up. It's been, I think, 10 years since I've even touched it. Yeah, definitely go check out that game if you can find it. It should be pretty cheap on GOG. And then there is the Temple of Elemental Evil. I've never even heard of this game. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't even look it up after I saw its tile. I was just like, whatever, it's a game. It exists. But yeah, I'll play it one day. And then Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline. It is it's another Elder Scrolls type first-person game. It's got some great mechanics, and it also is an inspirational game. Its follow-up, sadly, has had a lot of issues, and I don't know if we're ever going to get it. It's not being made by Obsidian. It's not going to be the same vibe. But if you compare it to Elder Scrolls, it's the best Elder Scrolls that was made. It's a little bit deeper. It's got great dialogue. The whole plot of it is very interesting. If you're a fan of vampires and like whole like mythology behind them, this adds to it. It makes it much more interesting. It makes me wish there was a Blade game, and I hope the Blade game that is coming out is going to be good. But it's got like that kind of vibe to it. It also has Vampire, or as some people just call it, Vampire. Vampire is another deep vampire sim, essentially. Walking through, or a sim RPG. You're walking through the city, you're making contacts, you're trying to build up relationships. Meanwhile, you are a vampire, you're feeding on people, you're trying to protect other people. It's great. Definitely go check this one out. Definitely go check it out. And now Avowed. The whole reason I wanted to make this list. I've seen a lot of reviews on it. And I usually don't trust reviews. If a game looks interesting to me, I'm probably going to check it out on my own. That's the best way to do it. Don't listen to other people. I mean, if they say it's completely broken, it's complete trash, maybe hold off on it. Wait till you hear more on it. See some people actually argue that, hey, it's not actually broken. But like, for instance, No Man's Sky, when it first came out, I can understand some people were very pissed off. That game came out and it was not what was promised. It had a lot of issues with it. But today it's better. But if you were to have been one of those people who bought it at launch, yeah, you're probably upset. You're probably very disappointed. Avowed is getting a lot of mixed signals on it because there's some people who aren't truly playing it. There's people who are saying, oh yeah, this game's only 30 hours long. That's it. Max 30 hours. If you just bum rush the main story and miss everything, yes, it could be about 30 hours. Like I said, I'm about 25 hours in, just shy. It's like 24 hours and like 49 minutes or something stupid like that. And I'm only in the second act, and there's at least 4 acts, at least judging from what I've heard and what I've seen in the game. And I'm hearing things that just don't make sense, showing me that you who are reviewing this did not play this game. Like, you bum rushed the story. That's not playing the game. Your review is a disservice to people who want to play the game. If you're also not mentioning the fact that you should probably play Pillars 1 and 2 before you jump into Avowed, just for context, you're doing people a disservice. I've heard people say there's no companion quests. You get your first companion quest in Act 2. You go to somebody's house because that's part of the quest. You find something. You find more about this character. You find out about like past relationships. You dig into these characters like you would in every other game like this. You do the same thing in to an extent in Elder Scrolls. You do the same thing in Fallout. You can build relationships with these people if you go off the beaten path and like follow the side quests. Listen to people. Do things. Don't just bum rush one direction. Explore. I honestly don't understand where people come from, like, oh yeah, it doesn't have anything, or the writing's too confusing, I don't understand it. They don't give you any context. Well, one, you gotta read. There's books in here, which will, if you didn't play the first 2, can fill you in on events that happened, but not to the full extent of actually playing the game. Like, play 1 and 2, jump into this one. I mean, after playing 1 and 2, you're gonna understand, okay, I need to read a lot. There's a lot of books going on. If you don't like to read, I can understand how that's gonna turn you off. That'll probably turn off a lot of people because words hard, me no understand words, that kind of stuff. But this game is fantastic. Gameplay, beautiful. Movement is some of the best I've seen in a game. There was some game it's being connected to. And I don't mean Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. That one, they're 2 completely different types of games. I can understand how people are just like, oh, there's swords and it's first person, same type of game. But not. Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance 1 started off with a full staff of 250 people working on this game over a period of time. Avowed started off as 80 people, and then here's where people get things confused. This game was in development for 8 years. 6 years just on the game that we got. 2 of those years was pitching the idea and staffing up. And their original idea, yes, it was going to be a MMO-ish co-op game, kind of like what's the game? Borderlands. kind of like that, where you could play it together. So yeah, there are stagnant NPCs. That is a gripe I have against it. I wish there was more movement from the NPCs, especially like the quest givers. But they didn't want to go with a day-night cycle, and I understand that. There's really no day-night cycle for Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. I mean, there is day and night, but people don't have schedules like that. They're going to stay in one spot. Avowed has a lot of charm to it. The way it plays does make sense once you get into it. You also will see like there's a lot of houses, but it doesn't seem like there's that many people in the town. Well, some of the NPCs that you can't talk to, they do move around. Like maybe they're going to be standing over on like the east side of town. Next day they're over on the north side. And they're listening to someone like hate preach against you. So there is some schedule. It's not for the quest givers. But really, this is a game that truly rewards exploration. Going out, trying new things. Combat is some of the best you're going to see in a game. It is beautiful. The only gripe I have with combat would be, so dodge and jump are the same button. If you're standing still or pressing forward, you jump. If you hit any other direction while doing it, you do a dash. And I would kind of like to be able to dash forward in an angle, but you can't. You'll just jump. You have to be more left or right in order for it to be a dash. That's kind of annoying to me. Quickly got used to it. The fact that you can have 2 loadouts and they swap pretty quick, like decently quick, and there's skills later on if you want under like the ranger class that lets you make that faster. But the fact that you can have 2 weapon sets and have your grenade, so it's kind of like a first-person shooter. It's kind of like playing Halo or something like that, where you can swap your 2 like weapon sets and then have your grenades at all times. So you can be a mage. You can have like a dagger in one hand, your spell book in the other, but still have grenades accessible. Which grenades aren't just like explodey boom boom things. There is the standard grenade, but you also have the elemental ones, which they benefit a character like me. Like I am playing as a ranger, and I don't have the ability to cast lightning or cast fire, ice, something like that, but I can collect a plant that works as a throwable grenade that when it lands, it explodes and causes X elemental damage. It's beautiful they thought that through. They didn't want anybody to be hindered. You can play through this game as any class, and it's going to be about the same difficulty. It's pretty easy for the most part. I have died maybe 3 times in combat, usually because I'm not watching my health. I'm just trying to fight and not die, but I get surrounded, and I'm an archer. I'm not like the most bulky defensive character on earth, but it's so lovingly crafted. But yeah, back to what I was talking about with the delays in the game. This was originally pitched as a online MMO. That quickly got scrapped. That got scrapped before they really got into developing the game. Some of the remnants did remain, which is, I guess you can say it's the static NPCs. But at the same time, they hadn't even made that part before they scrapped the whole idea of making it like multiplayer. So it was truly a design choice to make them static. They don't want you to have to go hunt for your like NPC to give you a quest. They want you to be able to go straight to them and find them. I mean, they could have just updated the little cursor to like show like, hey, they're standing over here now. They're inside their house. They're in bed, kind of like Elder Scrolls would do. But they decided not to because they didn't want it to be like exactly like Elder Scrolls. They didn't want it to really be compared to Elder Scrolls. They were trying to make their own, try to take their own franchise and put it into a look kind of like the same evolution that, Elder Scrolls and all them did, like Fallout did. But yeah, it's whatever. They did spend quite a while doing this. There were 2 reboots before they actually got into the game that we see today. There's a little bit of misinformation where they think like, oh yeah, this game only started 6 years ago and that's when the reboots happened. Go back, because they started this idea once they were acquired by Microsoft. That's how far back this project goes. And I just hit stuff on my desk and I apologize. Yeah, it's a very, very well done game for a game that has been rebooted. And I think people also see the fact that it was rebooted and are like, oh, well, that means it's bad, because as we've seen through history, most games that do get rebooted like that, they end up being bad. Like I was saying earlier with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline. The second one is going to probably be bad. It's been rebooted 3 or 4 times. There's a remake that's been in the works for Knights of the Old Republic 1. it's been rebooted a few times, few different studios taking charge. It's possibly going to be bad. That's just something we've come to expect from games like that. Ones that just get endlessly rebooted and have like just a development hell. But yeah, Avowed is like a solid like 7.5 or 8 out of 10. It's nowhere near bad. It's well above mediocre. I wouldn't say it's like game of the millennium. It is. I don't think it's quite as good as the other Pillars of Eternity. The other Pillars of Eternity, you kind of have to take things slow. This one, I think my biggest gripe with it is honestly the fact that you can run. You can sprint. That's really going to be my biggest gripe. It bothers me. It bothers me a lot. I like to be forced to go slow. I like Icewind Dale. You're forced to go slow. You have to click, take a couple steps, slow down. And you kind of have to like pull your enemies. Pillars of Eternity, you kind of had to do that too. If you went too fast into things, you could get surrounded and die. Like just get wiped. And Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. If you're sailing through the sea and you go too fast, too far, you can get attacked by a pirate ship that might be too powerful for you to take on and you're wiped. Just either they're going to take you in ship combat or they're going to board you and just wipe you out. But yeah, Avowed, it lets you go faster, and I wish it would let you go, make you go slower. And I understand people are like, well, I need to run everywhere. But it's not realistic. It just isn't. I mean, I don't want to like walk at a snail's pace. It gets a little old. But like maybe a medium fast walk or something like that. I don't know. I walk fast naturally, so I think I want to move a little bit faster than someone who's taking like baby steps. But don't need to be running everywhere. It's not realistic. It just isn't. Your character's not going to run like 10,000 miles nonstop. Like, oh, well, I talked to a person, now I'm going to stand still, but then I'm just going to take off running this way. I don't know, it doesn't feel right. But what they did get right is that movement. The way you move, the way you open doors. Like, say you find a door and it's barred. You find another way into the building and you're unbarring it. Like, the movements of your character, the way the screen moves and everything, it just feels so good. It feels like it's realistic. When you jump forward, you're not jumping like a Space Marine where you're jumping like 10 feet like you do in most games. You're taking like a human jump. It feels right. There's just so much about it that feels right. Combat feels hefty. I mean, I'm an archer, so most of the time I'm using my bow, but I do have a sword and shield for backup. And swinging the sword, blocking with the shield, it feels good. It feels good when you connect with the enemy. Even with a bow, when you charge up that shot and let it rip, it feels good. It feels so good to play. But yeah, I mean, if they just took it slower and maybe made it more clear to people, hey, you should play 1 and 2, that would help boost it up some. The lore is just as good. Reading the books is just as fun. I wish I could collect more. There's some that you can't pick up and they don't get like recorded into like a record or anything. And I would like that. There's times like if I see 12 books in a room, I know I'm not going to read these right now. I'm going to read these later. So I like to be able to collect them and then later go through and like read about more of the lore, see what's going on. Same thing I would do in Skyrim. I would collect a bunch of books. I might not read them right there. I'd fill in my library, and then once I have like a row complete in my library, then I'd go and read them. I'd go quickly just like peek through them, not pick them back up, but read through them while they're there. It's great. But yeah, reading, again, people are going to be turned off by that. I don't think people are going to approve that I put this in A. They're going to be like, oh, this game is trash, blah, blah, blah. I'm surprised I haven't seen the woke thing. I mean, one of the first towns you go to, you can help a girl fix her lesbian relationship that she thought she had. And I'm surprised we didn't hear woke, 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 woke. But again, if they were to say woke, 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 they're just showing how stupid they are. That's what it comes down to. Anybody who complains about woke is just ignorant, needs to stop talking, needs to learn that what they're doing is just being racist and bigoted. But you know, learning for those people is just kind of hard. Anyways, before I get on to complain more about how dumb anti-woke people are, I'm going to go ahead and end this. So yeah, let me know what you think. These are These are what I consider some very, very, very top tier games. And Avowed is great. So is Alpha Protocol. If you don't like it, too bad. And until next time, you take care. Hey, thanks for watching.
Give us a like if you enjoyed it, and dislike it if you didn't.
Let us know what you think about the channel.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Tell your mom.